good morning, afternoon, or evening. It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta, Georgia, and here we are for another DRS SIGWELL seminar. SIGWELL, if you're new to this community, is the special interest group in design for well-being, happiness, and health within the Design Research Society. And this seminar is about two topics. We usually get one, but today we decided to go with two. So our seminar is on exploring spatial well-being and well-being metrics. So our idea with these webinars, this is the third, by the way, is to continue conversations with authors of outstanding papers presented with during the DRS conferences, and also introduce some new guests to our community, and try to promote more these moments where we get together between conferences. So we also aim to create content for our YouTube channel. The idea is that our students and community can access these videos and use these videos in their classes and so on. We have been having very interesting feedback, so people are using these resources. This is great. So let me introduce people. I'll start by introducing myself. I am Leandro Tonetto, an associate professor in the School of Industrial Design at Georgia Tech. I am also the convener, as we say, of SIGWELL. We have here with us Sarah Harris. You probably received communications from her. She's the organizer of this seminar, and my GRA, who's graduating soon. So we miss you, Sarah, already. We'll have two sessions today, and I will introduce all presenters now, so we can then concentrate on their talks. The first in the lineup is Juan Salamanca Garcia. Juan is a design researcher, an interaction designer exploring product aesthetics and information technologies. He leads research at the Design for Social Viscosity Lab at Illinois, examining the social and material conditions that influence cooperation and collaboration in collective practices like urban commuting. His work introduces social viscosity and agent-based modeling as tools for studying social interaction. So really cool work. I'm curious to see what you have to say, Juan. And also joining was in this first half of our seminar, also on spatial well-being. We have Bisha. Bi is a PhD candidate at the Public Design Lab, School of Design at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and he's also a visiting scholar at RMIT University. So his research, which is titled Positive Solitude, Rethinking Public Open Space Design in Densely Populated Urban Contexts, is a study in Hong Kong that explores positive solitude and its role in public open space in high density cities. So in our first part, in our first half, we will have these two speakers, and we'll follow with Qs and As. In the second part, we have well-being metrics. I want to take advantage of this moment to introduce everyone. So I think that would be easier for flow after. In the second part, we have Yvette Shen. Yvette's an associate professor and area coordinator of visual communication design in the Department of Design at The Ohio State University. Yvette serves on the board of AIGA Design Educators Community. Her work spans information design, data visualization, and user interface, and also experience design. So she's going to talk about metrics in the second part. She has a strong emphasis on interdisciplinary collaboration and co-design, and investigates how data-driven and systemic design can transform complex information into meaningful and accessible experiences. And last but certainly not least, we have Sander Hermsen. He's a behavioral scientist and designer specializing in behavior change through design. Really cool work. So he explores the effectiveness of designed artifacts in promoting health and sustainability. Sander is a senior scientist at Radboud University Medical Center Prevention Hub and principal behavior scientist at One Planet Research Center, where he focuses more on developing digital interventions for healthier and more sustainable behavior. Please, let's welcome Juan.
Thank you, Leandro. It's just excited. So excited being here, and appreciate very much the invitation. So I'm going to talk today about some of my research, the research I have been doing for the last years in this concept of like design for social viscosity, and it comes from my perspective on as an industrial designer that migrated into interaction design early in the 20th century, I would say, beginning of the 21st. I regard the practice of designing as devising the means to foster positive social practices. And as I keep on doing my research and like in understanding the research of others, I kind of like think in design on not only like not as silos, but people design objects or interfaces of networks or spaces or graphics, but all of those expressions or spaces for design are converging and interacting in the support of social practices. And so this has more like a perspective on design as not as individual disciplines or fraction disciplines, but it's a holistic view on like how design can actually support the things we do together, like caring or learning or governing or commuting, and that's kind of like my perspective on design, not as just as a specific practitioner of one space in design or one discipline in design, but more like a holistic designer. And I'm interested in the design of computational social agents. So it's like the idea of like we can design stuff that are relating to humans in some degree, in some capacity, but those artifacts we design can have some smart components that actually amplify what we initially thought as like the design of a product. So we can sense and we can communicate and we can adapt and we can transform the shape and like display messages. But at the same time, these artifacts have the capacity to connect to each other, so they can extend the functions they have into like a ecosystem of artifacts. And that's something that years ago was labeled as the Internet of Things, but it's still like something that is like the backbone of much of the social capacity of artifacts today. And I think the idea of like social capacity of an artifact actually it fluctuates or could be mapped in this space when the artifacts may have an ability to interpret contextual situations, and the more apt they are to interpret these contextual situations, the better the social intelligence they may have. And in the vertical axis, they have also the ability to assemble meaningful actions. It's like something that both axes are tremendously complex, like in understanding context and putting together meaningful actions. It's something that it requires like very elaborated skills, and it's something that we learn as humans as we getting to society through education or through like parenting. But that's our mechanisms that actually we are emulating in like the space of like computational intelligence. But we see like expressions like basic alert and notifications, like some initial idea of like how interfaces could be designed to make appear an artifact intelligent to the level of co-creation that we are seeing today in artificial intelligence. This slides actually represent my vision of like how to frame this problem of designing for artifacts that have some social ability. And I want to use this picture from the late 19th century to exemplify my idea. So I want to focus on this scene, this interaction between these people on the sidewalk. And we see that there are some non-human actors in this scene that actually are influencing the behavior of the human actors, which are these three people. But there are some humans, as they execute their actions, like walking on the crosswalk, the sidewalk, the artifacts are actually influencing the way they act. So they have some scripted programs of actions that actually influence what they do. And from the actor network theory, we can interpret this as like everyone in this situation, either human or not human, has a program of action. But then I propose this like triadic unit of analysis. It's like just simplifying to this couple or simplifying the analysis to what happens within these two couple and the umbrella. And there are like this idea of like there's a dyadic unit of analysis when we talk about social interaction. You know, two people in relationship to each other is kind of a dyad of agents in interaction. But of course, when we have non-humans participating, there might make more sense to have a triadic unit of analysis, in which we can decompose the social unit and analyze within interactions. So someone who is actually using and interacting with the artifacts, and those interactions are actually putting together some meaning to the other person. And the between interactions mean that that unit is actually presenting, displaying, offering some form of sociality, or like enabling some forms of sociality or types of social interactions. And in my research, I'm interested in cooperation and collaboration, but you might interpret like that space in between could be any other form of social interactions that might be also extend to negative or not so positive interactions like conflicts and violence. And this space between what is happening here between these three agents, it's what I call the design for social viscosity. Like let's thinking of this space as the domain of like promoting cooperation between people by designing artifacts that interpret that situation and react and adapt. So to exemplify this framework, I have been working on transportation and commuting, specifically using smart bicycles. And I propose a system in which I want to help people to bike together. But actually, it's biking together is one of very pleasant experiences when you bike in a group, but actually requires a lot of coordination. And there's a problem when you are riding with other people, or when you are coordinating with others. It's like one of the most challenging parts is like agreeing on where and when do things together. So we have like social systems like, or computational tools like doodles that actually you put your calendar that's an example of a technology that is sorting the complexity or the challenges of coordinating. But in this case, I want to, instead of like just not for the pleasure of biking together, the goal of this project is has a higher idea. It's like actually promoting healthier ways of commuting by just riding bicycles. In some countries like the Netherlands, it's kind of like natural thing. I don't need probably this kind of like project may have a different interpretation. Other countries really require like a shift in like in the mindset of what is the mobility in the city. But in order to switch from cars to bicycles, I think we need to propose offer a better riding experience to two-wheel users. Not only bicycles, but actually all sorts of like two-wheel commuting. And it may actually have a tremendous impact in like the well-being of these users, but also in reducing CO2 emissions. And some studies have reflected or have like shown that if we substitute some car commutes with e-bikes, we can actually reduce between 11 and 25% of car rides, because in the United States, many people go to the corner store by car. And also it can reduce CO2 emissions by 11% in a city like Portland. And so, but again, getting the bicycle and having the idea of like substituting these kind of rides requires a better riding experience. So the proposal is to create an urban attractors and leverage on the power of the critical mass, like bringing cyclists together around biking together, so the city can actually offer mobility privileges to that group of cyclists. But again, getting together is the challenge. So Urban Attractors is a platform that actually help people to converge on mobility spots, on mobile spots, sorry. These mobile spots that you see in the video down is like represented by the green ghost, and the others are the riders that are chasing the ghost. But what this technology proposes is that we are going to have a set of applications where the city actually deploys some of those green attractors in the city. They are kind of invisible signals that are traveling on the roads, and the users are following those signals by using a system that is enabled on their phones. And this system actually presents information to the user by displaying in kind of like a navigation tool, which is not the main goal of this application. The main goal of this application is like helping people to get together to bike. So if I turn on my application, I'm gonna get a map of where is the nearest attractor. You can see that like that green dot on the screen is like the attractor, and the position where I am is the red dot, and I have a field of arrows that is like pointing towards the bicycle. This is designed in a way that actually is kind of a peculiar situation, because you want to have this display. You're going to navigate this by using the phone on your bicycle, and you get the feedback of the system when you can get suggestions of speeding up or slowing down as you go and chase the tractor. So you may have different colors to speed up or slow down, or hold your acceleration. This is more or less what the signals. When you are behind, this red line represents that you are next to the tractor. When you are behind, you are either on the blue area, where the blue zone, it means that you are in the proximity enough to gather together and create a swarm. If you are in the green area, you are too far, so you need to speed up. That's why we have the green interface. But if you exceed the attractor, you are in front of the attractor, you get a red light, which is slow down. This signals have been portrayed or like displayed to the user in different modalities. I have used haptic modalities to represent this. I have used like sound. I have used like these visual inputs, and of course, a combination of all of them make the message stronger. But um, none of them is perfect in by itself. A complementary signal and multimodal display of messages, it's the most effective one. But it depends also on the weather. Like when we wear gloves, haptics are not effective. Or like using headphones, it's not the safest technology on the streets. So there is a compromise of each one of them. And one option is to delegate all the coordination to the bicycle. So instead of like someone controlling the bicycle control itself. Imagine this is kind of like an autonomous driving car, but instead of like driving, it's like autonomous acceleration. And it's getting the signals, and the bicycle is speeding up, slowing down by itself, but not independently of human input. Remember, this is an electric bicycle. Electric bicycles are assisting power, but not independent. So they don't speed up, slow down, unless you are pedaling. So it's not like 100% independent. So to test this technology, we actually did some. We have been doing many experiments, but this is the latest we did in last summer here at Illinois in cooperation with Dr. Maximilian Scharpel from the KIT, Karlsruher Institute of Technology in Germany. And we were trying to evaluate like to what extent people actually get together around the tractors, and if there is some difference between using a conventional bicycle and an electric bicycle. So we did experiment. We set up a route. We set up some attractors, and we divided participants into groups, and they have to get together to two different attractors, different speeds, and we want to observe how efficient is the system, how effective, and how long does it take to differentiate the two groups. So the first analysis is about the preservation of proximity. So how close were the cyclists to the attractor? And this is more or less an example of what we observe. On the top, we see the conventional bicycle. On the horizontal axis, you see time. On the vertical axis, you have the proximity to the attractor. So in red means that you were in front, and in blue, you were really close to the tractor. In green is you were really behind the tractor. And on top, we see like conventional bicycle, the behavior, and at the bottom, the electric bicycle. What we observe is that conventional bicycles, there's more fluctuation of like the when you are near the tractor, you're like adjusting more often. But you don't exceed much the tractor. You are not in front of the tractor that often. Whereas on electrical bicycles, you have more chances to exceed and be in front. And but the behavior is like acceptable to our standards. It's like just we want to have some percentage of like people in that blue area. So we create a critical mass. And when the city detects a critical mass of a cyclist, is going to offer green lights, so create a green waves of cyclists that flow through the city from A to B, and those green waves are going to be also. We propose that those green waves could be connected to the metropolitan transit system, so people can get on time to trains if they go on this. They join this critical mass of cyclists. This is an example of our visualization of how effective is the system. On yellow means that it's a mismatch. You were far from, or you join a different attractor. In blue, it's like you join the right attractor. So we consider that we are achieving a high degree of accuracy in the system. But also we want to analyze, well, we are together, but to what extent we achieve these conditions. Like it's like something that we can observe at the beginning of the ride, or it's something that we can just get later. And this is a visualization of the evolution of that congregation. We see like after around two minutes, people start splitting into groups and distinguishing themselves from one to another. We are now taking these experiments and escalating that to the analysis of the system in a city scale. So this is where we use agent-based modeling to analyze the behavior of, or the impact of such a system in a city. Of course, that's going to analyze the CO2 emissions, but also we're going to analyze what the impact for car drivers of something like this in a city. And we are presenting this research in a couple of weeks in Germany, like on the simulation of like traffic. And we are starting to get some results there. But it's interesting that using agent-based modeling, we can have this idea of like observing and validating what we see in actual experiments or in society. We model that in a computer, we kind of synthesize that, and then we do a reverse interpretation of what we observe in the simulation. And that's a space that I found it could be a tremendous importance for the design of social systems and the space of design in thinking of how we affect social behavior and social interactions. So this is in a space that I believe we're start seeing more and more in design, like using agent-based modeling to understand the effect of what we design. I want to conclude with some remarks on the importance of preserving viscosity. We may think of these technologies as something that reduces the viscosity, something that eliminates viscosity because it simplifies the decision making for getting together, doing things together. But actually, in our studies, we saw that people like to mess up with others. It's something that people enjoy. It's something we should preserve. It's not like systematizing everything to the point that reducing complexity. That's something that we don't want to do it, because that people enjoy writing together in that phase of like some degree of messiness. That's important. And the second thing I want to emphasize in my research is like the relevance of models that embrace holistic experience. So we can do experiments of like individual modalities, but actually that's not really revealing the complexity of designing for this kind of like social systems. We think that models that engage or like incorporate entrainment, for instance, so coordination between individuals, and the study of entrainment, which is the synchronization of rhythms between people, or some aesthetics, that is this tightly coupling between human and sensory tools, that might offer a better lenses to understand this kind of design for social viscosity and design for smart artifacts. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I'm very happy to answer any questions and hear about your inputs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Juan. Such an interesting presentation. I even have my own questions here, but we'll have our next presenter now, and then we'll ask all questions about spatial well-being together, if that's okay. Thank you, Juan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bisha. I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to participate in today's webinar. And I'm super happy to see the continuation of the DRS Conference 2024. So today I'm going to introduce an overview of my PhD research work in progress, positive solitude, rethinking public open space design in densely populated urban context, a study in Hong Kong. This is me. I am a fourth-year PhD candidate from the Public Design Lab, School of Design at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, supervised by Professor King and Michael Siu. I conducted a research visit at RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, last year as a part of PolyU programs, and I have a background in interior design and product design. I love Solitude. During my master's course, I found my favorite spot on the campus is in the picture. It's a single sofa with high partitions around my head, and I have a heater to put my feet on. There's a warm light above my head, and huge windows with a beautiful view of Hyde Parks in London. I really love this place. And I think that spot was perfect, not only because of its spatial elements, but also because it's actually at a pretty busy junction. So I can hear the bustle and noise of people walking and talking behind the partitions of my head. It kind of make me feel secure and not that isolated while enjoying my solitude. So I think that space was unique, and I found it's not that easy to find something similar elsewhere. So I think that experience led me to reflect on my own preference for solitude and the environment around me. So I started to question myself, is it just me? Why is it so difficult to feel comfortable being alone in public spaces in the city? So fortunately, I found I wasn't alone in terms of liking to be alone. I found many people enjoy their solitude in public spaces around the world. And from my observation, I think public spaces are actually commonly used for solitude, especially in Hong Kong. Over half of the users use Hong Kong public open spaces alone. They seek solitude amidst the urban bustle and crowdedness. However, public space design rarely considers solitude. If we look at the existing design principles, I think solitude seems like something people want to avoid at all costs when considering to design an urban park or street plaza. But how about people like me who actually enjoy solitude and want to enjoy it in public spaces? So this realization becomes my motivation and first research gap. And I will introduce my research by breaking down the title. Let's have a look at the context first. This is Hong Kong, one of the most densely populated regions in the world, with a tiny territory and only a quarter of it is built up area, makes it extremely crowded. And we have very limited public open spaces per capita, and these spaces are unevenly distributed. What are those spaces? The Hong Kong Planning Department defined public open spaces as recreational open spaces where public has free access. And the government highly value those spaces and have implemented strategies to make them high quality. So let's see what they are like in reality. Those are the pictures I took in 2023 near my place in Mong Kok. I see people sitting on the flower beds at the gaps between the fences. I think it wasn't really designed for this kind of use because it's pretty tall and you cannot put your feet on the ground. But it was actually always popular for a kind of short solitary breaks, like scrolling phones and taking a nap. However, a few weeks later, it's all gone. The authorities blocked all the gaps. I think it's not only for gating, but leave no space to sit at all. So I'm very interested in this phenomenon, like the built environment is one thing and how people develop and use it is another. And those two are always interacting. So that phenomenon led me to question, why do Hong Kong people enjoy solitude in public open spaces? And what is relationship to the space and design? There's one concept may describe this phenomenon called positive solitude. It's different from negative solitude like loneliness. Positive solitude describes an actively chosen and enjoyable solitary experience. And I understand positive solitude from two aspects. I want to be alone and I enjoy when I'm alone. So one could be motivation and the other one could be experience. So I use autonomy from self-determination theory to understand the motivation aspect. I also involve assemblage and actor network theory like Juan to understand contextual relationships. And I use positive emotion and engagement from PERMA model to understand the experience aspect. And I also involve relational affordance theory and PERMA model to understand the relationship between public open spaces design and the two aspects. So here comes a summary of my research gaps. First, the understanding of positive solitude in public open spaces is missing. Second, a contextual understanding in Hong Kong is not yet investigated. And third, design recommendations considering positive solitude in those spaces are needed. So this is my research question to fill these gaps. What public open space in densely populated urban areas motivate people to engage in positive solitude and enhance their experiences? To answer this question, I designed a three-phase research. So the first one involves 2 round observations, and the second phase includes ethnographical interviews, behavior mapping, and experiential participant observations. And the third phase will integrate the previous findings with spatial analysis, aiming to generate some insights from spatial design perspectives. So this three-phase research includes both quantitative and qualitative research methods and will generate a conceptual framework by contextualizing and validating the theories used. So in phase 1, according to the literature, I chose 3 districts in Hong Kong. There are Shan Shui Po, Kowloon City, and Kwai Tsing, where most people reported preferring to visit public open spaces alone. And I chose 2 types of public open spaces, popular for solitary visits. There are small sitting hall areas, aka pocket gardens, and public housing open spaces. And there are 193 sites in total among the 3 districts and 2 types. So I screened all of them and found 27 of them are the most popular for solitary use. Then I started observations. 108 observation visits were done to determine which are the most favorite spot for solitary individuals. Then I found 4 sites. They were selected for a further detailed study in the next phase. In phase 2, I conducted ethnographic interviews. So 2 investigators, we observe and approach the interviewee with all respect. We try to minimize the disruption to their solitary experience. So we ask about people's lives, views, and their understanding and experiences about positive solitude. And after each interview, when the interviewee left, we occupied the interviewee's spot one by one and recorded our own subjective feelings about the space. So we try to impersonate and empathize using our own impression and perceptions. So the findings are still under analysis, but some themes have emerged, such as voluntary choice, reflection, rest and relief, and finding quietness, pause in the fast-paced urban life, and escape from the crowded homes. Some interviews are very impressive to me. I still remember one with an interviewee who sits in the corner of a public open space near Tuguawan underground station. Every day after work, he used that time to organize his thoughts and leave work burdens behind, which he doesn't want to take home. He said he wants to be well prepared and clean to go home and enjoy his own life. And I remember another one. She mentioned that she was so busy all life long taking care of her bedridden sister, and she never had a chance to go travel. So she only has about 20 minutes personal time every day after the sister fall asleep. So she go downstairs to use the exercise cycling machine. So when she rides, she closes her eyes and imagine that she rides all the way to Guangzhou, Beijing, Tokyo, and Los Angeles, and so on. So I think the first interviewee uses solitude to organize his own thoughts in his inner world, and the second one uses her solitude to expand her imagination beyond her constrained surroundings. So during the interview study, I really realized those experiences are something in the middle between lives and imaginations, and between interior and exterior. And those spaces are actually quite important to people who want to and need to spend some quality solitary me time, both to the interior and exterior. So this is the current stage where I am now in my PhD research. And last year I went to Melbourne and started my research visit from March last year. I went there to discuss the notion of interiority with Professor Susie Atwell. And another one is I conducted a comparative study in Melbourne using similar methods to see the differences in different cultural contexts and urban forms. So in Melbourne, I chose a district called the CBD area in the city center. It is the most densely populated urban area in the whole state. And there are actually quite very few planned public open spaces of the same type as the sites I chose in Hong Kong. But I found the forecourt of the Victoria State Library very interesting. It's a piece of lawn in front of the library building in the busiest area of Melbourne. So, sorry. Many things happen in that place at the same time. I saw tourists taking pictures, and people playing chess, and people meeting each other, and people skating. And of course, a lot of people enjoy their solitude with a lunchbox or with headphones, or just be there and feel the bustle. Or maybe they also feel a kind of secure or not that isolated while they enjoy solitude, just like me in the campus, sitting in a big chair facing to the street and the park. So in April 2024, I conducted a series of observations, behavior mapping, and interviews. So it was fascinating to see a lot of people sitting on the sloped lawn and watching the busy stage of street. So I think it was a good time to take a pause in a busy day, and also feeling a sense of community among the other solitude enjoyers. So they are not isolated. And yeah, so I'm still following my own research interests about positive solitude, and I try to make it a way of living and finding meanings in lives. So through my research, I hope to contribute to the understanding of public space design that considering the experience of both sociality and solitude. And the comparative study still requires a bit more time to complete, but there are some preliminary differences have been identified I want to share with you. For instance, I found that in Hong Kong, in some easily accessible public spaces, I often see or perceive those kind of space. They serve as complements to crowded and cramped domestic spaces. For example, a lot of individuals, they are in slippers and pajamas in those kind of public areas. And in contrast, in Melbourne, people dress pretty cool. I remember one interviewee mentioned that the architecture, the building of the library is a central cool spot where sitting alone make him feels like his body becomes a part of the whole scenery. And yeah, I think this is where I am now. So I am open to collaborations in other places to see what's going on with solitary behaviors in other public spaces. So please feel free to reach out if you are interested. And there are some publications and awards of my research, and that's the end of my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your work is extremely interesting and original, so I'm really happy to be able to see more following the DRS conference.
Exactly.
So we have a couple of questions. I'll go back to one and then come back to you in a second. Juan, I'll ask two questions together. One of them, there's someone that asked if you would recommend specific literature on social viscosity, maybe your own work. And also, have you considered integrating a feature that connects riders to the local community groups?
So in terms of like the literature for like the social viscosity, I've been writing about this, and I have a couple of book chapters that I can share with you guys and elaborating more. But that's kind of the plan for my sabbatical. It's to put together a publication. This has been a long journey building the idea of social viscosity, and I didn't share much of the details of how to measure the viscosity that might actually dovetails with the next section of this seminar, because I have metrics to assess the social viscosity and estimate situations in which they have like higher or lower viscosity. But specifically about social viscosity, I can put in the chat a little bit of the publications I have done. And if you Google, you're gonna find probably some of my publications, but the concept is not that disseminated so far. So it's when you Google social viscosity, perhaps you're gonna find different inputs, but it's not many. So if anyone wants to like learn more about, have a longer conversation, I'm gonna put the links in the chat, and also my email. I'm happy to continue that. And about connecting this to like social groups, yes, I've been thinking of like different extensions of the system, not only on biking but also walking, and that's a space for actually coincidentally, like just anecdotal, something anecdotal happens with I disseminated this work on a local newspaper, and I found that there is an interest from equestrian club. And I said, what's the relationship between tractors and the equestrian club? And it happens that they like to ride their horses together in the fields, but actually they had a hard time coordinating. And they thought that a system like this could be ideal for them to just hop on the horse and eventually converge and enjoy riding together. So this is just by saying that the idea of like doing things together, that could be implemented in many different communities. So far, let's say the app I'm developing, it's not incorporating the idea of like the, for instance, the community that Nike has around running, but it would be totally feasible, and I see that applications in different like activities, not only biking, by walking, anything that's about moving together.
Wonderful. Thank you, Juan. I will do the same, throw two combined questions that were asked for you. One is how do people consider safety in these activities? So what brings the idea of safety? And the second part is if you could revisit the idea of using the PERMA model to study positive solitude.
Okay, thank you. Those are really good questions. I think the idea of safety, considering safety in solitary behaviors in public space is super important, because I have done a pilot study in Hong Kong's public open spaces, and safety, it was really the highest ranked elements that people concern the most. But I think it's quite unique to see that in Hong Kong's context, because you can never find an empty public open space in Hong Kong 24/7. There's always people there. So you are always in someone's view sight. If we consider the idea of the eyes on the streets by the death of great American public space by that book. So if you are always seeing others, even though not really directly seeing in eye contact, or you are always in the eyes of the others. So it is quite interesting to see that in Hong Kong's context, that the watchful eyes and, or let's say the surveillance you can encounter in public spaces. So I think this is a quite big difference between Hong Kong's public open space context to the others. And the second one is the PERMA model. There are 5 elements in PERMA model: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. So I try to follow those 5 elements to guide me to understand the spatial configurations of my site case studies. So I think positive emotion and engagement were quite important, because positive emotion is quite subjective, and it connects a lot to the motivation aspects that I evaluating by using self-determination theory. The engagement element, I think, is connected to the assemblage and the relational affordances quite a lot. That's how you perceive the surroundings and how you perceive the environment settings, including the others, including the other human actants in the space. So how you engage with the environment and how you engage the existing environmental setting, and also the solitary activity.
Thank you so much. We are
Thank you.
Right on time, so I'll save more questions to ask if we have more time at the end. Thank you so much, Juan and B, for your presentations.